Hello, my name is Lynn and I'm delighted to be here to begin today's presentation. And to begin, I'd like to share a story with you. I was extremely hungry and wanted to eat a hamburger. But what would I order if not a beef hamburger? If I was an Indian, I'd probably go with a Maharaja Mag because 70% of the Indian population cannot eat beef due to religion. The hamburger will change to lamb. A black or white burger would be more appealing to me if I were Chinese. So what makes McDonald's such an easy primarily focus on customer mind? Culture is the most important factors. And today we will identify the definition of the concept of culture. Culture is the complex definition, whole that include knowledge, belief, and any other capability and habits acquired by human as member of society. There are several aspects we need to focus. Firstly, comprehensive means is include nearly everything that influence a decision-making process and behavior. A Japanese and Vietnamese will perceive the world in distinct way, with different factors to consider. Secondly, much of human behavior is learned rather than innate, so that cultures can be acquired. Third, cultures seldom give detailed prescription for acceptable behavior. And finally, the nature of culture is such that we are rarely aware of it. For example, how to use corn in different culture. And so we have to learn about how the culture influence consumer pattern. And there will be some concept that we need to focus on. There will be a concept of culture, value, or widely held belief that affirm what is desirable. For example, one of Vietnam's most prominent cultural value is kindness, tolerance, love peace, desire to live in peace. That they are expressed using idiom that every Vietnamese person has heard, like when a horse is ill, the whole stable refuse to eat the grass. And cultural value will create norm. For example, in the U.S., smiling is appropriate when meeting stranger. It shows that you are polite. But in Russia, it means that you are mocking them. For example, cultural value is emphasize freedom and privacy, so norm with strong surrounding privacy in the home and sanction. Sanction are strong for infiltrating other people personal space. That's why cultural value give rise to norm and associate with sanction, which in turn influence consumption patterns. Marketer should recognize the thing that culture are not static. They always exchange and growing due to the effect of globalization. And they have to understand the existing and emerging cultural value. If not, they can make a fail like Walmart deal with Japan market. Walmart apply a everyday low price campaign in the sale store, and the campaign that's just really successful in US market. But at Japan markets, customers associate low price with cheap quality, so this campaign will fail.
As you know, our society is colorful with different cultures and people who live and breathe that culture. Each one is unique in its own right. But there are specific values that vary in each one of them, and they may affect the behavior of customers. So there are three major sets of values, and we usually use them in form of questions or observation. First one is other-oriented values. They are values tailored to the view of society, of the connection between individuals and groups in one's society, basically between each other. It's how you view the other people, so it's a noun probably. Some example of this is should new and creative youth or rule-abide adults be the role model of today's society? Should every family have an enormous family tree? Are you more likely to achieve success by excelling over others or by cooperating with them? The community embrace variation in religion, race, or maybe points of view. It's how people view each other's point of view in life. The second set of values is environment-oriented values. They are values that are the relationships between society to the economic, technical, and physical environment. So it's more of an action, a verb. Examples of these are how clean should you be to ensure healthiness, because different countries are strict with this, such as Singapore or US by running endless environmental campaigns. Another one should be is should you keep tradition or allow change to happen? Should you take risks to aim for higher goals or play safe to survive? It's how people in a society handle their life. And the last one is self-oriented values. They are objectives and attitudes an individual has to live and what they are found desirable. So it's basically your point of view in life, to be exact. Example, should you be introvert or extrovert? How comfortable are you when talking about central topics such as clothing, drinking, or sex? Should you work harder or smarter? Are you trying to survive in life or live your life to the fullest? Or maybe how flexible you are with rules. It's how you shape your lifestyle. However, sometimes you can see cultural variations right away, but there are certain ways that you can be aware of them through non-verbal communication. On to the next one.
Hello, Mr. Mun. My name is Uyen, and I'm going to present the part cultural variation in nonverbal communication along with Lin. So, as I've observed, there are two types of communication, which is verbal and nonverbal. So, verbal communication can be obvious to the human ears. Differences can occur even in the same language, and literal translation can cause confusion. For nonverbal communication, it is beyond the spoken language, specific to each culture, and concludes of action, events, and things. So for nonverbal communication, there are differences in dialects in the same language too. So the word spoon, in the Vietnamese northern dialect, it is called a thề, but in the southern Vietnamese dialect, it is called muỗng. So confusion can occur in the same language and also in different language. So the same word in English can have a different meaning in French. So the word queue in English means but in French. This is a problem that Colgate has faced in their launch. So therefore, literal translation can cause problems in the company for a company in the venturing of the new foreign market. So for nonverbal communication, there are factors influencing nonverbal communication.
We have two concepts of time. They are monochronic perspective and polychronic perspective. They have so many different things, but we can conclude that meaning in the use of time is the very meanings in different culture. But in much of the world, the time required for a decision is proportional to the importance of the decision, and so we cannot be late. And I would like to tell you about space. The use of space reflects how people use their space, the meaning behind the space assigned. So Chu Minh Uyen have her own way to use her space, and so am I. But we all have personal space, the space which an individual let others come to without feeling uncomfortable. We need to respect personal space of other people to not make them feel uncomfortable. And the next one, we need to understand about symbol. Almost everything has a deeper meaning behind it, include number, color, animal, and so on. Like for example, purple in our country means romantic, while in Latin countries mean death, or O in the US country mean wisdom, while in India mean bad luck. We need to understand the difference to have the right marketing strategy.
So I'm going to talk about relationship. So there are four dimensions that I would like to focus on, which is the difference in time needed to form a new relationship, type of relationship, motive behind forming a relationship, and depth of a relationship. For agreements, so agreements in Western cultures are mostly business driven. In Eastern culture, it is more relationship driven. For things, the meaning behind on objects differ from countries to countries, cultures to cultures, so it makes cross-cultural gift-giving much harder. For business etiquette, I would like to focus on behavior, voice tone, and body language. So among these three, I think that body language is the most difficult to understand and also interpret and also master.
So welcome to my presentation and thank you, Jules. I will introduce for you about the four global young cultures. First, we will go to the meaning of the global young cultures. Everyone knows that global young cultures refer to the cultural practice of the member of the age group by which they express their identity and demonstrate their sense of belonging of the particular group of the young people. And we will go to summary key aspect of the global young cultures. First, global young cultures were open to the Frankfurt School conception of the culture industry that in this updated context signified the process by which industrialized mass produced cultures and commercial imperative drive global capitalism and attempt to the legitimate aid and by integrating young into the capitalism system by means of their involvement with new media technologies. And moreover, young cultures can be traced back to the terrorism associated with and influences by the Centers for Contemporary Cultural Study. Technologies like the internet had led recent terrorism to the question to applicability of the concept of subcultural in a global context. Postmodern cultural terrorism are attempting to account for the way in which global young negates individualism amid market-based dualism. So that is the end of my law 4 and that's the end of my presentation. Thank you for listening.
Global demographic, I guess that most of everyone know this, so I just read about it. So demographic is describe population in terms of its size, structure, and distribution structure like age, gender, income distribution, rural, urban, suburban area. So he assembled that company Pepsi and Coca-Cola apply the demographic with the culture in the industry. They change the packaging to appropriate to suit with culture in from each country. So you know different culture we have different demographic and company need to consider about that. So about the rock cultural marketing strategy, this is the last part. I think there's a couple of things that we should know that there are 7 considerations from needs to answer need to consider when moving into foreign markets. So the first one is how much was heterogeneous with respect to culture. Like from want to move into foreign market like USA to Korea, do they want to integrate or separate with the culture? And that's the first question. And the question number 2, what need can the product feel in this culture? You know, slipper in you can use it as a shoe, but some parents in Asia they use it as a tool to hit their children. So there is another use of slipper in another culture. And the third one is can enough people afford the product? Which is how many people need a product and can buy it? And the number 4 is what value are relevant to the purchase and use of the product. Or we can probably say what factor influence customer to buy on and use the product. And the number 5, what are the distribution, political, and legal structure for the product? You know, like around 2018, Apple have struggled in China because the trade war between USA and China happened, and this may create a huge damage for both companies, both market. And this number 6 is in what way can we communicate about a product? We see what language form of nonverbal communication can be used or what kind of appeal will fit in with the cultural value system. It's like I show you this is storytelling a way to communicate about the product. And this is from Neptune Cooking Oil. And the last one is what are the ethical implications of marketing this product in this country? You need to remember that this appropriate ethical will avoid conflict with the culture of that country. Like in this picture, this is from advertisement from Dough and Gabbana. This model used chopstick to pick up pizza, and you know this respect and ignorant with the culture in China and also in Asia. This completely opposite with the ethical. So there are 7 considerations that are from me to consider when moving to the market, moving to foreign market. We complete this recession. Thank you for listening.